You want to move from chaos to clarity? Who doesn't? Passionate about ending needless chaos, like multi-million-dollar marketing mistakes, our next speaker, Pam Gilchrist, has developed an award-winning, proven method that brings clarity to businesses and leaders across the country. As the chief strategist at the Gilchrist Group, Pam works with organizations during times of dramatic growth and change by sharing her Fortune 500 insider secrets to optimizing outcomes and adding impact. Featured in the soon-to-be-released book, Best Marketing Practices for Speakers by the National Speakers Association, you'll also find Pam in the New York Times best-selling list, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Life Lessons for Women, and some other publications. Are you ready to move from chaos to clarity and optimize your outcomes? Please help me welcome Pam Gilchrist.
Kids, cats, dogs, they can all make us a little crazy sometimes, right? I want to tell you about my cat, Blue. I'm going to start with a cat story instead of a dog story today. So he has about 100 toys in his toy box and lives the life of luxury. I work just so I can give him some kibble. But what is that one thing, do you think? What's the one thing that he wants to play with the most? It's a simple string, right? He just wants to play with it, bat it around, shake it, chase it, kind of capture it. Eventually, he wants to dominate it and straighten it out. Isn't that like us sometimes, what we want to do with our chaotic life, straighten it out and get a grip on reality? My cat knew what was going on, right? You know, in the past 100 years, we have gone from the industrial age to the information age to the knowledge age. We have more power right now in the palm of our hand than a superhero. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm just not feeling a whole lot smarter. Wired magazine had a great quote recently. They said, "It is the age of beyond the beyond," saying that we are inundated past our human ability to cope with it. We're drowning in data, we're drowning in stuff, we're drowning in change, we're drowning in chaos. Some people are calling it the age of disruption. Others are calling it the age of turbulence. Here's what I think. I think it's this. It's a hairy, hot mess of chaos. That's the world that we're living in right now. So it is kind of ugly, isn't it? Okay. So, you know, if I was the cat, I'd be wanting to bat this around and play with it. But in this age of change that we're in, we've got to figure out how to deal. So what are we going to do as innovators? We're going to learn how to maybe knit this thing into a sweater, sell it online for $1 million. Then we're going to offer an IPO, right? We're going to make $1 billion off of the IPO, and we're going to retire to Fiji. I like it. Okay. So to do that, we've got to become more flexible. But the foundation of being more flexible is to understand fundamentals. We can't get flexible and innovate and do new things until we get those fundamentals down and have that muscle memory. Just like when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be cool, you know, get in the cool crowd, impress the kids, and do this gymnastics trick where you climb up on this bar, flip around backwards, and somehow land on your feet, right? Ta-da! Okay, you know what's coming, right? You know what I did? Uh-huh, you got it. Got up there, flipped around, unlike the cat, did not land on my feet, landed straight on my head, got a concussion, went to the emergency room, had to wear the neck brace, was not very cool. But what didn't I know? I didn't know those fundamentals. I hadn't practiced. I didn't have my moves down, right? So I didn't know what I was doing. A recent Fortune 500 survey found out that only 5% of employees know what the corporate strategy is for their organizations. 5%. All right, so think about this, flip it around. What's this mean? 95% of us don't have a clue what's going on, right? 95% of us. So how are we going to compete globally if we don't know what the game plan is? So it's really important to focus on those fundamentals and know the muscle memory, understand your job, understand the business dashboard, everything that you need to do, so then you can improvise and innovate and add a few new moves on top of that, right? So to do that, I'm going to share 3 secrets with you today to help you optimize your outcomes. And they are simply to think, speak, and act clearly. So secret number 1, to think clearly, we have to stop all this chaos in our head. We've got to focus on the critical few and not the trivial many. I learned a cool tool a couple of years ago that I found very, very helpful. Imagine yourself, if you have all of this going on in your head and you just can't keep up and you're overwhelmed, imagine you're on one of those corkscrew roller coasters and it's going around and around and around and around and you can't get off the thing. Instead of a roller coaster, take this story loop, as we call it, and turn it into a dial. So this dial is going to go from 0 to 100%. And because we have a malleable mind that can learn new stuff, we can teach ourselves how to keep this dial in a reasonable range of, it's okay to acknowledge that stuff's going on, but keep it at 5% or 10%. If you see it exceeding that, go ahead and dial things back a little bit. The next thing is to keep your perspective. I have a friend named Tony. He runs a Friday's restaurant down in Cincinnati, Ohio. We were there one night and it was pretty crazy. The computers had gone down. So what's that mean? The cooks in the kitchen can't take orders. They don't know what's going on. The servers can't check people out and take their credit cards and pay. The guests are getting restless. And Tony has time to come back to me and say, "Hey, Pam, how you doing?" And I said, "Tony, you're remarkably calm given how crazy it is." He said, "Let me tell you something. Burgers and fries and nobody dies. It's burgers and fries and nobody dies." He had perspective. You see, his 3-year-old son, he'd had brain cancer. He'd been through the surgery, the chemo, the radiation, everything. And Tony knew what really mattered. His son is fine now. But that was a good lesson to kind of keep things in perspective. So those are ways that you can think clearly. The second tip is to speak clearly. We're inundated with data, so we've got to add meaning to the message. We've got to add context. We can't data dump because that doesn't add any value. It's up to us as leaders to be the ones who provide that context and direction. We've got to inspire our organizations to greater success. And this is hard. That 5% gets it. I get that. Because let me just give you an example. I'm going to go ahead and read these to you. If we can't get a stupid newspaper headline right, it's no wonder we can't get strategy right. Here's some recent headlines. March planned for August. New study of obesity looks for larger test group. Queen Mary having bottom scraped. Red tape holds up new bridge. Eye drops off shelf. Enraged cow injures farmer with axe. And my favorite one, kids make nutritious snacks. So you can see how we can get confused pretty easily. And we've got to be clear and add that meaning in that context. Take that extra time if we want to move that 5% higher to the 90% quartile. So speak and think clearly. The third one is to act clearly. You see, people are watching. We give off signals with what we do. Our behavior matters. And all of us as a corporate team need to be disciplined and focused. By knowing those fundamentals, that's when we can improvise and become innovative and deal with all of the change that's going on out there in our world today. But to act clearly takes that discipline and that focus. Now, discipline, does it sound like diet? Diet's a 4-letter word, right? So we find that they're not sustainable for a long time. So one of the things that happens is if we lay out a big corporate strategy, we get fatigued. We get kind of worn down. So it's important to break that into bite-sized chunks so you can celebrate success, give people rewards, and give them some chocolate so that they're happy before you move on to the next thing. So that's how you can act more clearly. You know, here's the final thing that I really want you to take away. It's that big reveal moment, and it's not new at all. Ancient Chinese secret. You see, with chaos comes opportunity, right? So for those of us that are thinking the world has gone a little crazy, there is tons of opportunity out there for emerging new leaders who are able to think, speak, and act clearly and help people and organizations move from chaos to clarity and to optimize their outcomes.